What place gets creepy when you're alone? Don't forget to support our shitty channel. Please. The library. I work in a big 60-year-old academic library. I have recently started using my office from time to time with everyone else still working from home. I'm ashamed to say I turned all of the lights on the floor on while I was there. The bathrooms are the creepiest. They haven't ever been updated and have a real 1960s feel. You described my university's main library perfectly. I'm sure yours is as creepy as you say when no one else is there. But on a lighter note, I love my library with its retro study carrels and the books smell and the endless rows of shelves. My heart will break if they ever renovate all the floors. My basement looks like it should be the set for a Hostel type movie. Worst of all, my dad bought some old barber chairs he's going to restore someday. So this room that already looks like a torture chamber now has 2 beat up barber chairs in it. My uncle's recently purchased house has a basement a lot like yours minus the barber chairs. When he bought it and started renovations, he took apart a makeshift storage closet type space in the basement and found "I will be good" written over and over on the walls inside. He and his girlfriend found out from neighbors that the house was used as a residential care home. Fucked up. Public toilets at 4 AM. Rest areas are not a good place to be from dusk till dawn. My school bus stopped at a rest stop at 2 AM for our senior trip. Creepy enough at 2 AM, but most of the state is surrounded by woods, and teenagers are assholes. So instead of buddy system they'll do their business and sprint to the bus. Screw you if you're still washing your hands. Roller rink. I used to work at a roller hockey facility and often closed the place alone. The sound still traveled, and it sounded like I was being followed. Even creepier now that in some places, skating rinks have been converted into emergency morgues to house the massive number of COVID casualties. I didn't know that. That scares me. Hotel. I work at a hotel, and actually one time in a dozen years of me working there was one day we had absolutely no guests in house. I did not like that one bit. I hated being in that huge building all by myself. Similarly, dorm buildings. During closing time it was so eerie, especially with every door open and the large communal showers all alone. I relate to the dorm thing. When I lived in the dorm, I remember when school was letting out for break and people were starting to go home. It felt like a lot of people were done with finals early. Well, I had finals till the very last day before break. For that week of finals, people would be packing up and leaving. As the week went on it got quieter and quieter. It was weird not hearing people in the halls, especially at night. Gas stations at 3 AM. Especially ones that are in the middle of nowhere. To me it's everything around the gas station that's the problem. Where I live gas stations are basically like little supermarkets with people working in them, even during the night, and even in the middle of nowhere. So the scariest part is looking at the complete darkness surrounding the gas station. Midway up the basement stairs, after turning the lights off at the bottom. Who the hell installs the light switch at the bottom of the stairs, rather than the top? Oh, there's a light in the stairwell with a switch at the top. I'm talking about the basement room going dark, and you're in the stairwell with nothing but darkness at the bottom of the stairs. Below ground levels of a hospital. Worked third shift in a major hospital. Had to bring samples to the lab in the basement at all hours of the night. Seriously one of the creepiest places I've ever been. It was pristinely clean with fluorescent lighting which just gave it a really weird vibe to me for some reason. There's one main hall that is about 300 to 400 feet long with corridors splitting off the whole way. I always pictured a zombie from 28 Days Later sprinting towards me from the other end. I absolutely hated when I'd have to go into the basement during night shift. Worked in an old huge hospital. You'd get off that elevator and knew you were alone, but you were also waiting for someone to pop out from around the corner. The worst was having to bring bodies down to the morgue. Just you, a tech, and a body rolling with squeaky wheels down a long ass hallway. I'd get back to the elevator to go back upstairs and get that feeling like someone is behind you, so you're rushing, even though you know no one is there. Just one of the many reasons I was glad all my patients were alive come 7 AM. My house when I've been watching conspiracy theories for hours. Especially unsolved murders and stuff. The whole show Unsolved Mysteries actually. When I was 11 in the early 90s, I used to sleepwalk after watching Unsolved Mysteries. It got so bad that my mother wouldn't let me watch it anymore. Edit. Missing word. The parking lot when you leave work late at night. Story time. Back in 2014 I was working an evening shift in an industrial area, so I'd arrive for work around 4 PM and leave around 1 AM. My ride was the family's cargo van. They used it to deliver produce that had no windows in the back. Oh, and the locks didn't work. So I'd come out at 1 AM to an empty parking lot and climb into my murder van that had been unlocked and unattended the 8 to 9 hours prior, and then hop in and hope for the best. Not gonna lie, some nights I'd creep myself out and wind up swerving wildly in the parking lot on the way out to toss any hiding kidnappers/murderers that were waiting in the dark for me. Practically any room in my house after I watch a horror movie. There's a stretch of road in my hometown where a few teenagers have died in car accidents. 3 kids on 2 separate occasions in the same spot. There are few street lights and wooded lots surrounding it. That stretch of road is very creepy at 1 in the morning when you're alone in the car. Sometimes they like to have reenactments with cars driving by. When I was growing up there was a deranged kid in our street. He would dress up and make up like a dead body and lie on the road pretending to be dead. People would naturally slow down and maneuver around him. When traffic was slow enough, he would suddenly get up and run through an alleyway, getting to the next traffic light before the last car who saw him lying down. He would then jump in front of the car, all bloody, looking really mad, and pointing a finger at the driver. He caused more than one fender bender as terrified drivers stepped on the brakes. The subway. When it's packed with people, it's fine. You are just rushing with the rest of the crowd to catch the train. But when you are alone, and every sound is bouncing off the walls, that's so creepy. The artificial lights don't feel as unnatural as they do when you are alone. You find yourself yearning for the sun or the stars or anything real. A small cloud of fireflies would be better than the hum of overhead artificial lights. Even the air smells stale down there. It feels like a tomb, but with a train ready to take you on the way out. Empty school. Yes. I worked in a preschool that was converted from an old elementary school, and closing up at night was so creepy. I refused to look in any windows. You can't see anything you don't want to see if you're not looking. The gyms and bathrooms are even worse. Dark roads in the middle of the night. Scarier if another car is with you, following you, just far enough behind you that you occasionally think you might have lost him, but then you look in the rearview mirror and see those headlights coming around the curve. Basements. Kevin, is that you? Merlin, what the fuck? The woods near my apartment complex at night. They are, but how else Sam is supposed to keep an eye on you? Pressed up against the window, like normal people. The middle of the ocean. Yes. My wife, son and I went on a cruise last summer. At night I'd go out on the balcony and read when they went to bed. Out in the middle of the Atlantic with no lights anywhere. It's super cool, but also very unsettling. Seeing another ship off in the distance was strangely reassuring. I'm a teenager and went on a cruise with my family last fall. being with my siblings and the strangers I met and turned into friends, while being on the top deck looking out into the water, or being in the 24/7 diner at 3 AM is very weird. The house I grew up in. Short story, after my childhood home was sold, it was a big deal for me to be the last person of my family to sleep in it. Childish, I know. I invited my next door childhood friends to spend the last night there, and they hung out for a while and then bailed. I asked, aren't you going to stay? And they both said, nah man, your house has always given me the creeps. I stayed for about 15 minutes after they left and finally bailed. For some reason that basic single-story suburbanite home was extremely creepy. As a superstitious person, always trust your gut. Always. Amusement parks. Just imagine yourself with no one to even turn on the rides. Worse if the rides turn on anyway.